But here's the secret. When I got out there and started doing it, wow, your brain starts firing ideas. So you don't have to go look in the textbooks and the things. You're participating in a conversation. You know, when you talk to someone and they're saying something and it jogs an idea in your brain, same thing. So, no, you don't have to go post every day, but if you participate in a conversation, you get on the platform, you're going to start seeing ideas, trends, things that are going to like give you an idea or questions that people have. At the end of the day, we want to just show up in our area of expertise in our industry and have conversations about what we know and what people care about and what they have questions on. You can never go wrong sharing something people are struggling or an insight that it's a common thing that resonates. But I guarantee you, when you get on the platform, commenting first, as you say, and I agree. And then if you're ready and you want to, posting, they're going to flow. I promise you, because I learned it and I see it every single day.
Welcome to the Internal Marketing Podcast, the unique podcast series that flips the marketing conversation from external to internal, exploring all the ways that companies can build a brand and drive growth by engaging and empowering its employees to become powerful advocates of the company brand. I'm your host, Kerry-Ann Stimson, and I'm very happy to bring you this episode where we'll be talking about how company employees can build their personal brands on LinkedIn. But first, make every internal email a great experience with Workshop, the #1 internal marketing email tool. Effortlessly create, send, manage, and measure engaging email campaigns, newsletters, and announcements. Workshop is the easiest email editor ever and streamlines workflows with features like permissions and list management. Their powerful analytics provide valuable insights into engagement, open rates, and more. See why Workshop has become the go-to email tool for internal teams at hundreds of top-tier companies like Panera Bread, HarperCollins, Jim Beam, and more at useworkshop.com. Now, let's jump into this conversation with my featured guest, Michelle B. Griffin. Michelle is a certified personal brand strategist, author, and podcaster, and she'll be sharing about how company employees can build their personal brands on LinkedIn. Michelle, welcome to the Internal Marketing Podcast. It's so great to have you.
Carrie, it is so good to be here. Thank you so much for having me today.
Well, this is going to be an exciting conversation. And as I said in the green room, I predict that it will probably be one of the top episodes this season because I know it's a huge topic that a lot of folks are interested in because we're going to be talking about how can someone build their personal brand on LinkedIn, right? So LinkedIn, I feel like is one of those social media platforms where folks have a love-hate relationship with generally, right? And I know I certainly did before I started to dig my feet into the platform because I just kind of saw LinkedIn probably like most people did, which was it's the place you go if you want to look for a job, right? And so you make sure you have a LinkedIn profile, probably fill out a couple of the cells about your job, where you used to work, kind of thing. And then you just be present. And maybe if there are companies looking to recruit people, they may go on LinkedIn and see if they can scope out anybody of interest. But LinkedIn is so much more than that. It has become more than that. And I just believe that having drank the Kool-Aid myself about LinkedIn and how wonderful it is a place to really build a personal brand, particularly for someone who wants to grow professionally or in any sort of career endeavor. It's the place to be. And I know you know that. You know all about that. You yourself have your own journey to share. But let's start with a level setting question, Michelle. Why should someone build a personal brand on a platform like LinkedIn? I mean, what's the benefit? And I'd love to get in your words why you think that's important.
Oh, well, it's an excellent question because in the last couple of years, LinkedIn has, and even maybe in the last 4 years, but traditionally in the last three, things have completely changed in the world, the business world, and LinkedIn is the place to be seen and to, have that presence and the visibility. It is no longer the resume and recruiter site that we all joined it back in the day, put it out there and just ghosted it. It is a tremendous place where business conversations are happening unlike any other platform. And it just lets you showcase yourself and share your thought leadership, your expertise like no other platform. And now with the creator mode, they have even more ways to just become that brand, that known person in your go and become the go-to really in your industry if you do it right, so that you can have professional opportunities, career advancement, all the things you might wonder, all the people, all the stakeholders, the media, the world is on LinkedIn and you not being there, you're missing opportunities. So we want you here. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And I'm really excited to dive deep on this.
Absolutely. And I know, Michelle, you have your own kind of personal story about your LinkedIn journey. Would you kind of just share that with us? Because I find it inspiring, and I'm sure some folks will be inspired by it as well.
Absolutely. Listen, I know that LinkedIn is the place to be, but it's kind of a scary place, with the clients I work with, even from CEOs to executives, they are scared to put themselves out there, right? There's so much at stake and they're like, who would listen to me? It's just all the things we have as humans, that imposter syndrome, the fear of being judged, all the things. And I felt that too. When I left my corporate role to start my own brand consultancy, I felt that too, right? And I knew that LinkedIn was a place to be. So I really had to fight through that. So my story is, which I really talk about in the LinkedIn branding book that I co-wrote with one of your other guests a few months ago, Michelle J. Raymond. I had to get the nerve to get out off the sidelines. Took me 9 months. Okay. 9 months. So I absolutely know what it feels like. But then I made this really bold challenge. I'm an all or nothing person. So in 2021, I said, I'm going to post every single day on LinkedIn. Now, call me crazy. It is a little nuts to go from being on the sidelines to that. But I tell you what I learned, what I went through, and just the amount of endurance and the opportunities being visible every single day just built my business, built myself. Now, do you need to post every single day on LinkedIn? Heck no. But I lived it, and that was like my professional Iron Man, if you will. But it is truly the place to be. Not only that, because you'll get those opportunities, but you're also going to really give yourself a personal, professional, and purposeful alignment. Like you really kind of get clarity on who you are and how you want to show up in the world. And then also, you get professional development. You learn to express yourself, to write, to all the things that we need as humans in the career space, right? So that was a wonderful way to do that. And then, of course, the professional acclaim. For someone in corporate, of course, you want to be seen in your leadership to the industry you're in. All those things are there for the taking. And I call that the power and the payoff of putting yourself out there.
Thanks for sharing that because I think an aspect of your story connects with a lot of folks, including me. Because when I think of I was on LinkedIn for years before I even did my very first post. And it kind of harkened back to what you would have shared about you see all these awesome people putting out awesome content. It's like, oh, how can I even become a part of that conversation? And I know for a lot of people, they would have mentioned things like imposter syndrome is a thing. And LinkedIn is just one of those platforms where I think the last set of stats that I heard, less than 10%, maybe easily 5% of people on LinkedIn are actually posting content on LinkedIn. Uh, my next question then, Michelle, would be, well, as someone who probably is on other social media platforms, obviously there's Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, do I need to show up differently on LinkedIn than I do on the other social media platforms? I mean, how does that dynamic work for someone who's trying to build a personal brand professionally?
Well, LinkedIn was definitely going to be your place to be because, and recently, it's a great question because recently, in the last few weeks, as of this recording, LinkedIn came out. There was an article, and we can link in the show notes on Entrepreneur Magazine, that they've kind of now realizing, look, we really want this to be the platform people create, share thought leadership, and really help people in their space. There was a time last year when it kind of got a little crazy, and people were saying it's like the Facebook of LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is like the Facebook of business, and so if you really we're talking the professional brand here. So if you really want to get out there, share your expertise, be the known go-to, share your company, all the things, this is the place. Much more so than maybe the next second best would be Twitter or something, but it truly is where business conversations happen. And that's how they brand themselves. I mean, they totally brand. That's why I stick to LinkedIn. But does that mean everything's buttoned up, boring, and stodgy? Absolutely not. I mean, we're humans. I like to say, I coined a word. saying, look, if you're scared about showing up, because building a personal brand is scary, right? So on one hand, you want to be professional. You want people to know, your stuff in the area of expertise or whatever you want to be known for. But then people think on the other side, wow, I don't want to do a personal brand. You have to like share all your secrets and be so vulnerable and no, here's what you do. You're personable. There's a big difference between being personable and personal, right? So I say, we go in our work, we hang out at the water cooler, the cafeteria, you're just chatting with your friends. So we want to see both sides of that. The human side. That's what a personal brand is, just humanizing who we are and letting people know this is my, that's who I'm about. This is my point of view, is my perspective. I'm known for this in the professional world. And that's a beautiful thing because we're not all work and we're not all just, we are professional and personal human beings for the most part, right? So we want to share both sides of that.
Absolutely. And Michelle, another contentious issue that I know is a hot button topic when it talks about how people are showing up on LinkedIn is the level of comfort or discomfort that companies have with their employees building personal brands on LinkedIn. And I know I've met a number of company representatives or even employees of companies who straight up say, look, my company says I can't be present on LinkedIn. Or if I'm there, I mean, my name and my profile pic and maybe just filling out a profile is fine. But I can't be creating and posting content on LinkedIn, is what a lot of companies seem to be saying in some instances, or just employees not feeling comfortable that they're safe to be able to do so. And in my view, I think respectfully, it's short sighted, but I'd love to get your take on what are the benefits to a company brand when their employees are building personal brands, because it's not just a one way benefit from where I sit.
I agree with you. And this is something I hope the narrative changes because at the end of the day, let's talk about why are these companies so scared? Is it from a legal security? I get that. From legal and security, we can't spill secrets, right? But there is so much more to your job, your company. We want to see the human side, right? We want to just go behind the scenes. Obviously, your company and your employees are not going to share secrets. So I would say have a middle ground because you're going to really empower your employees. You're going to help them feel aligned with their job, with themselves, their industry, right? Just from an inside perspective. We all want a good culture, right? Companies aim to have good employee engagement and culture. Well, that's one thing where the people that want to, of course, it shouldn't be forced either, that want to get out on LinkedIn and show, they've worked hard in their careers. They want to be able to, so I have a real contention with that all or nothing approach, right? I think it's just missing the game. So let's find a middle ground. Let's realize as employers, we want a really thriving culture, business. So there's a way to do that. So there's a lot of ways to break this down. I think it starts with having some parameters. There are some companies that just say no and there's no explanation, which that's a loss. So let's have some social media guidelines. Let's have some training. So I think it starts from the top. There are stats, which I don't have to quote right now, that when the CEO and the executive leadership are out there, then we start seeing the company from a different angle. Prospective talent really resonates with that, right? Employees stay there longer. You're also not having to invest in so much ad and marketing spend because a lot of this is organic free reach, right? And it just helps the overall brand perception of your company, right? So there's so many ways I could write a blog post or two about this. I get really fired up because I really feel like there is a respectful way to make everyone happy and support the employee, the culture, and the organization as a whole.
So there's a win-win all around. I mean, employees benefit from building a great personal brand online on LinkedIn specifically, and of course, the company brand gets to go along with the ride, as you said, because they're getting the kind of reach and engagement that, respectfully, the company brand would probably have to pay for. In a lot of instances from their own official company channel. So I totally get that point and I agree. Michelle, how you ended really was a great transition into my next question, because of course this is the internal marketing podcast, and the purpose of internal marketing is to engage our employees in the brand and empower them to become great advocates of the brand. So, even as we're talking about now how folks can build a personal brand on LinkedIn, I know you and I agree that there is a role that companies can play in helping to empower their team members, their associates, their employees to build their personal brands on LinkedIn. And if you could give us maybe some steps or tips in your experience that companies can embark on to help their employees to start building their brands or to augment the brands if they already exist.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, it starts internally. Everything. I mean, I love that your internal marketing because everything I do starts internally and builds out. So, depending on the size of the company, this will, impact that. But there have some creator teams, have some creator initiatives to kind of just get in and say, look, we want you to be advocates. So I want you to support the brand mission, but we realize you as a person are the face. So one of the things that when I talk with clients, they're like, I really want to get out there, but I just don't know where to start. So giving your team some kind of, as we go, guardrails. I use that all the time in personal branding work, especially LinkedIn. People want to get out on LinkedIn, but then, hey, on one hand, it's scary and then you can wait all day and try to be perfect. The best way to get out there is having guardrails. I love that you use that because you want to be a little bit defined on how am I going to show up on LinkedIn? What is my brand? So give them some tools, assessments, and that's the work I do with my clients. How am I going to be representative of myself, aligned with my company, and aligned with the industry at a whole? At the end of the day, you want to be very intentional and strategic so that all the parties involved can win and thrive and feel empowered. And that's what you're going to do. So giving your team and your employees in general some guidelines, not just on social media, but here's how you figure out, you can't tell anyone how to show up, right? Here's how you can have some guardrails to feel very clear and confident to get out on LinkedIn. And then once you do, once you take that action, going back to when I did my case study in 2021, you're going to absolutely find traction and see what resonates because that's one of the things, the great unknown on anything in life. We get so fearful because we don't know. But once we get out there, it all kind of starts making sense. So that's my 2-bit tip on that. Just get a little bit of clarity, get your guardrail, and get out there.
And I think that that's great. I mean, as an employee, so we spoke about how companies can support their employees in helping to build their personal brands, Michelle. If I could flip the coin a bit and talk to employees themselves. So I'm an employee, I'm working a 9 to 5, and I want to start or grow my personal brand on LinkedIn. What are those preliminary steps or secondary steps that I should take to be able to do that, in your opinion?
Well, that's great. So it's now that we've gotten that clarity, which your company has so generously trained you on, now you need to know the get out LinkedIn. So you have the internal stuff. Now let's get on externally on LinkedIn. Who are we speaking to, right? Because you get on LinkedIn, I think probably in the next 6 months or so, it'll probably hit 1 billion people on the platform. But like you said, 95, 97% really are what they call learners. They're just watching. So we want to prep the runway for our employees so they know who they are now. Now, how do we translate to your profile? Your profile is like your personal brand websites. We want it to be very respectful and very reflective of them and the company based on, the parameters of how they need to show up based on company. And that's important. Have that company guardrail too. So getting on LinkedIn can be scary, but when you have the inner knowledge and a little bit of training on like best practices and how to start conversations, that's really what you're doing on LinkedIn is having conversations. So I like to say prep the runway, get out there. Maybe, a stair step way is to have them start commenting on people they want to be intentional and strategic to, right? We don't want to be all over the place. We want to be very intentional and strategic because at the end of the day, we're growing their brand as an employee, as a professional, but also reflective of the company and the industry as a whole. So we want to have them start doing commenting and just going to LinkedIn Lives and LinkedIn audio events are wonderful ways to just get into the conversation, like a virtual networking event. LinkedIn is that digital, I always like to say LinkedIn is the world's biggest business conference. And you think of every post as a breakout room, right? Oh, look, they're talking about XYZ over here. I'm so interested in that. I'm going to go talk. We'll have a conversation in that room. I'm going to learn. So think of it that way. You're just going to virtually network at the world's biggest global business conference. So it's really exciting. And then, the feed is kind of like the hallway where you meet people, but you want to be very strategic about where you want to go talk and comment on. So once you warm up the one way and the commenting, then for those who are ready, and I don't think it's for everyone, you want to possibly start sharing your expertise, your thought leadership, your insights, all the things. And there's lots of different ways to position that and get out there. That's going to really take you to that next level and be seen. So depending on your goals and stuff, posting content. And also, at the end of the day, you want to just continue to keep building that relationships and the network, your online networking, your digitally networking, and building strong relationships that are reflective for you and your company and the industry as a whole. So, that is the stair step process, the runway, if you will, that I really like to say, here's how to do it. Now, as anything, right? You break it up into little chunks. It's not so hard after all, is it?
Not at all, not at all. And I'm glad you mentioned about starting in the comments because I think for folks, especially like me, before I started posting, that was where I found getting your feet wet was really good because you're participating in the conversation. You're not leading it, but you're participating in it. And it starts to build those relationships because people who post, they love when people engage with comments. So you're building relationships, they're seeing your engagement, and it's really a wonderful opportunity to start building relationships as well as getting your feet wet. A sidebar question, Michelle. I think a lot of folks struggle with d- where do I get ideas to generate content from? It's like, well, how do I get started? It's not only about how do I get started, but what do I even talk about? And yeah, I know I'm in marketing, but do I go to my marketing textbook and write about a chapter? I mean, how do you suggest employees kind of use their creative juices to get ideas about the kind of content that they could possibly start sharing on LinkedIn?
I love that you asked that question because going back to those 9 months in 2020, when I sat on the sidelines, what I'd get on there every day and I'd, connect and I'd comment here and there, but I was really like a learner and I was just taking it all in. I learned a lot in those 9 months on the sidelines. And that was the one thing I would ask myself. Where are these people getting their information and their ideas? Like, I don't get it. It seems so easy for them. Like, that was my daily question to myself. Like, it bugged me. Like, what's the secret? Where's the secret sauce to this, like unlocking all these ideas? But here's the secret. When I got out there and started doing it, wow, your brain starts firing ideas. So you don't have to go look in the textbooks and the things. You're participating in a conversation. When you talk to someone and they're saying something and it jogs an idea in your brain, same thing. So, no, you don't have to go post every day, but if you participate in a conversation, you get on the platform, you're going to start seeing ideas, trends, things that are going to like give you an idea or questions that people have. At the end of the day, we want to just show up in our area of expertise in our industry and have conversations about what we know and what people care about and what they have questions on. You can never go wrong sharing something people are struggling or an insight that it's a common thing that resonates. So I think when you just bring it down to that human level, then it's not so hard after all. But I guarantee you, when you get on the platform, commenting first, as you say, and I agree. And then if you're ready and you want to, posting, they're going to flow. It's the gift. It's the gift the universe gives you for getting out there. I promise you, because I learned it and I see it every single day. So that's my answer. And it's good news, right? Good news.
It certainly is. It certainly is. And, turning your comments into a post, I mean, that's a surefire way because you'd likely be commenting and engaging on posts that are perhaps in your industry, in your area of expertise or interest. And whatever thought you would have shared or nugget that you would have shared that may have connected with the folks who would have engaged on that post, you can take that, as you say, and flip it into content to create a post for yourself eventually once you're comfortable. I
That
mean, it's,
is can I just
yeah.
say that is such an I caught myself so many times that 2021 year. I'm like, "Oh, I'm getting really deep on this, so I'm gonna save it in my notes for a thing." But here's the thing. I wanna say, going back to our idea to comment, Another reason why it's such a great place, you mentioned so many. I like to say it's like below the feed. So we can be free. We're not as, visible as on a post. You're in the conversation and you can still talk and comment, but you don't feel as vulnerable. So that's why I love commenting so much. And I'll be honest, I obviously don't post 7 days a week anymore. And if I'm busy with client and projects, sometimes I go down to 3 and I'll just participate by commenting more. And even on days I'm not feeling it, Carrie, I will just comment more and it kind of just gets me back in a better mood. So comments are really the miracle drug on LinkedIn. It really, really, really helps you in so many ways.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And I love the fact that even earlier in the conversation, you shared you really don't need to post every single day. And I know, again, when we talk about people feeling not very confident or struggling with imposter syndrome posting on LinkedIn, because you're looking at people who are posting 7 days a week and they're just like firing off these awesome nuggets. I'm like, but I got a job, I got kids, I can't. But the reality is that you can choose a cadence that works for you. And I love that suggestion because I sometimes do it as well. Is that sometimes on the days that you can't post or won't post, you can still participate by commenting. And commenting, of course, gets the juices flowing, it builds relationships, it helps you to network. And you can't lose by just showing up and commenting again on posts that really work for you in your terms of your area of expertise and interest. Michelle, this has been such a great conversation. I know so many people have been not only enlightened by the awesome nuggets you would have shared, but certainly inspired as well by your journey. And my penultimate question that I typically ask, and I'm going to ask you, is what, in your view, because you've shared so many wonderful things with us, is the key takeaway that you'd like our audience to come away with having heard everything you would have shared?
Oh, well, thank you for that. And thank you again for having me. Trust it that you have expertise, a message, and something that needs to be out there. Take it from me, who's been on the sidelines on both sides. As an employee, you're valuable and your voice and expertise needs to be shared. As a company leader, your employees, your teams, they can really help be ambassadors. So explore this opportunity. Personal branding is a positive force for connection, for conversations, and for community. And overall, it just really personalizes and humanizes us. And don't we need that in the business world? So take the baby steps. You don't have to go from A to Z like overnight, but just take the baby steps, but just take action because I promise you, clarity breeds courage, confidence, and the commitment. And that's the word I like to use instead of consistency is commitment, a commitment to yourself, to your team, your company, your industry, and collectively to the business world and world as a whole.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much, Michelle. And of course, my final question, as I ask all my wonderful guests, is how can we, the internal marketing tribe, support you and how can we find you? How can we connect with you as well?
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah. So lots of different ways. So one of the beautiful things is you had my co-author, Michelle J. Raymond, on the show several episodes back. And she and I wrote the LinkedIn branding book. It's especially for people on the sidelines who just really want to get out there. And the beautiful thing is, it's not just personal branding or business branding, it's the LinkedIn brand because we believe in the power of two. Your personal brand and your business company brand collectively will amplify and multiply all of you. Okay. So go check out the LinkedIn branding book on Amazon. It's gotten rave reviews. And it's the beautiful thing is, it's not a boring how to LinkedIn. Yes, we tell you, but it also infuses our stories and our input. We also have the LinkedIn branding show. So some from there. And we also have a 50-page workbook you can download as part of the thing that can really help you set that brand. Remember when you asked me, how do we start our brand? How do we get out there? Well, we have that workbook that can certainly walk you through the process with our brand squared system. And then I'd love for you to come connect with me on LinkedIn. Tell me you saw or heard me here. I would love to connect with you. I'm posting 3 to 5 times a week on LinkedIn. And the good news, Carrie, you are so inspiring me. My solo podcast is coming out like back after relaunch. Yay! After
Woohoo!
long 2 year long hiatus. But it's the Brand Therapist podcast, and you can check that out on all the airwaves. So that is me in a nutshell. At the end of the day, listen, I just love empowering people to put themselves out there and share their unique message to make that impact on the world. So I would love to connect with you and come follow me for some awesome content to empower you as well.
And I support everything that Michelle would have shared. I mean, I found you on LinkedIn, right,
Mhm.
Michelle? I have bought the LinkedIn branding book and I've watched your live stream a few times. And yes, I did get the wonderful opportunity to have Michelle J. Raymond on the show. So you guys know your stuff. And I recommend everybody go and follow and connect with Michelle, both Michelles, Michelle J. Raymond, and of course, now Michelle B. Griffin. Get their book, listen to their podcasts and shows, and yeah, you won't regret it.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for all those kind words. Thank you for the opportunity to be here in a chat about what I love is getting people together and getting them out there. So it's been an honor and a pleasure today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Internal Marketing Podcast. I'm sure you got some great takeaways from this conversation, and if you haven't already subscribed to the Internal Marketing Podcast, then please join the tribe. And don't forget to leave a review and share this podcast with anyone whom you believe will find it valuable as well. I'm your host, Kerry-Ann Stimson, and I look forward to your joining me next time.